Hey, Fit Body family, it's Jackie Whiting, your nutrition coach for Fit Body. I'm so excited for today's webinar, and I hope you are ready to buckle up and learn a lot about gut health. I am a certified nutrition coach through NASM, and I have a degree in kinesiology, focusing on health and exercise science. I love food. I love studying the human body and all of its complexity. I love the way that our lifestyle and our diet can make all the systems in our body work together so harmoniously, and how interesting it is when we don't make healthy choices, how that can throw us off. And I'm just so excited. I love the intricate way it all works together. This is going to be a great time together. I've got a lot of information we're going to go over, so buckle up. If you're a note taker, get your pen and paper ready or your phone notes. And if you have questions or comments at the end of this, you're welcome to email me at jwhitingfbbc@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to answer them to the best of my ability. I will also make sure to preface this whole message with the fact that this is not personalized medical advice. Always consult your physician or provider before starting a new healthcare plan. So we're talking about gut dysbiosis and how to heal it today. We're talking about all the gut health things. So what exactly is our gut? It's more than just a digestive organ, right? It's truly our second brain. And we're going to talk about what I mean by that as the day goes on, as this course goes on. And it's constantly communicating with the rest of our body through the brain-gut axis. Excuse me, I'm pulling my notes up here. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about what exactly gut dysbiosis is. We're going to talk about why, like I said, your gut is considered your second brain. We are going to talk about signs and symptoms of dysbiosis, root causes, and how we can go about healing it from a nutritional standpoint. So I'm really excited. I'm going to open up with this question here. Have you ever felt butterflies in your stomach when you're nervous? Or have you ever been so angry that you were just nauseated? You felt a physical response to an emotional state, right? There is a reason for this. And we're going to be talking a lot about that too. So, excuse me. So let's begin with what I mean by our gut being our second brain, okay? So we've noticed too how we can be really quick to recognize when we're hungry almost immediately, but it takes about 20 minutes to recognize when we're full. It's because our brain and our gut are having conversations with each other directly. The gut has its own nervous system. It's called the enteric nervous system. It is one of three divisions of our autonomic nervous system. And this is a network of millions of neurons that are embedded in our gastrointestinal tract, and this controls several functions. It can function independently from our central nervous system, which is responsible for conscious and even unconscious thought, like just breathing, which is so cool. This is just so interesting. The neurons in our GI tract are in constant communication with our brain through things like the vagus nerve, and we'll talk about all of this in more detail as we go, through neurotransmitters, which are just chemical messengers in your body that this is where like serotonin and dopamine and gut motility are impacted and ignited to move food along, through immune signaling. Our gut houses over 70% of our immune cells. That is just crazy to me. So our ability to fight infection and disease is housed primarily in our gut. So when our doctors recommend dietary alterations for even behavioral or mood management, that's why food directly impacts our behaviors and our moods and all the things. So the ENS being able to control its own reflexes is the reason that emotional upset can yield digestive upset. So it's where the emotional becomes physical. So hormones also are a source of communication between the brain and the gut. So things like ghrelin is a hormone produced when our stomach is empty. Our brain signals our stomach to start getting to work and producing gastric juices that tell us, hey, I'm hungry. And then we eat, and then leptin is produced, and natural GLP-1s that start to make you recognize you're full, and your appetite starts kind of wearing off. So that's where it naturally starts to occur. So just awesome stuff. And we're going to talk about all the things that your gut health will impact as well as we go. So what exactly is gut dysbiosis? So the Cleveland Clinic definition of this technically is an imbalance in your microbiome. So that means there's too many of harmful, opportunistic bacteria and not enough healthy, beneficial bacteria. And then there's a loss of microbial diversity in your gut. That is what dysbiosis of the gut is. So you could really think of gut bacteria kind of like you would think of cholesterol. So with cholesterol, you kind of have an umbrella total cholesterol number. Under that umbrella falls HDL, your healthy cholesterol, and LDL, your lousy cholesterol, right? Both are critical for cardiovascular function, but if they get out of balance, it can actually be detrimental to cardiovascular function. The same is true for gut bacteria and its health. So you have that umbrella of the word microbiome and your gut bacteria. You have beneficial bacteria and you have more opportunistic, harmful bacteria. So that's kind of how we can consider that. So having microbial diversity is going to keep your gut happy and full of the good stuff. And we'll talk again more in detail about that as we go. So a healthy gut versus dysbiosis. Let's talk a little bit about the specifics of this. A healthy gut is going to be diverse in the bacteria. It's going to be balanced. It's going to be protective because this is the front. Like I said, there's so many immune cells are in your gut. So this is where the front line of immune function happens. So it's going to be protective and be fighting off pathogens in your body. It's going to be anti-inflammatory. All food, anything that you bring into your body is going to trigger some sort of response, some sort of even mild inflammation. But the anti-inflammatory response from a healthy gut is going to be what helps you keep that regulated so that you're not getting the wrong kind of inflammation where it just goes overload and causes any sort of physical distress in your body. A dysbiotic microbiome, on the other hand, is going to be very inflamed. It's going to be less resilient to disease. It's going to be more permeable. So think like leaky gut syndrome. We'll talk more about that as well. There will be impaired signaling between the brain-gut axis and your hormones. So, if you have any form of relationships at all, which you all do, we know that poor communication can be extremely disruptive in a relationship, right? So we want our gut and our brain to be able to have clear communication with each other. So the point here is microbial diversity is going to equal resistance to disease in your body. So let's get into the nitty-gritty a little bit about why, just the brain-gut axis, like why is our gut considered a second brain? Okay, so there's an ongoing communication highway here, primarily through the vagus nerve. It's how your gut and brain signal each other. Your vagus nerve is part of your parasympathetic nervous system, and this is where you get that balance between your fight or flight response and the ability to go from that to a more relaxed and calm state. So when our bodies and our guts are regulated and healthy, we have an easier time moving from a state of chaos to a state of calm. So emotional regulation is a major part of your gut health. Neurotransmitters are another means of communication and why our gut is our second brain. So I just love this point here. Almost all of our serotonin, almost 90%, is produced in our gut. So that's why the idea of like mama's cooking and comfort foods truly just make us feel better. It's a real thing. Your gut microbes, are going to influence that serotonin. It's going to influence your dopamine precursors, your GABA production, which is the inhibitory transmitter that is going to, neurotransmitter that is going to, like I said, regulate that excitability and relaxation mode that we can go to. And that's why when we have that bad day and we go have that treat, it gives you that big dopamine hit. It's a scientific thing. It's almost like a drug. But having a balanced gut is going to help us to regulate that. The immune system connection, gut inflammation can trigger systemic inflammation. Okay, this is kind of goes back into this links back into that gut permeability, um, and why when something is out of whack in our gut, it can show up in other parts of our body. So, like Hippocrates said, all disease begins in the gut. That is so true. So we'll move along to stress response system. I'm moving a little quickly here, if you'll forgive me. There's just a lot of information I'm really excited about. But another communication pathway is our stress response system. I'm going to harp on this point a lot through each of the sections that we get to because it makes such a huge impact on your body and your gut in how we take on stress and how we handle it. So chronic stress is going to completely shift our gut environment. It affects our gut motility, which is like how things move through our body, our gut permeability, so the leaky gut syndrome that we were talking about, microbial balance. And so what is happening here as our different nervous systems are firing off during times of stress? So stress is going to divert blood away from our gastrointestinal tract into our muscles, okay? Because our fight or flight response is being triggered. So our body is going to be more focused on like survival than it is food and eating and processing and absorbing nutrients the way it's supposed to. So when we're in prolonged stages of elevation or elevated stress or situations like that, this is that cellular glue that keeps the gut lining sealed is going to weaken a lot. And the lack of blood flow is going to impair our gut's ability to maintain and repair and protect its mucosal lining. And that's when, when those junctions loosen, that's when we're going to see a lot of toxins absorbed and undigested particles seep into the bloodstream. That's where leaky gut syndrome comes in and what it means. You think about if you have a brand new shirt or piece of clothing and you pull the fabric taut, the fibers are not going to separate as much when it's new and fresh and at its peak. So if you were to pour water through it, it would filter pretty well. If you have an old, worn out, the favorite t-shirt from years ago, if you pull that fabric, those fibers are going to separate more because they're weaker, they've been used more, and they're probably a little more beat up and less, it's not going to filter as well if you were to run dirty water through it. That's how our gut works. So when our gut lining, or our intestinal lining is weakened, then toxins are it just becomes more permeable and more toxins are going to seep through our intestinal lining into our bloodstream, which is carried all over our body and, cause some sort of upset in our body. And it will show up in many ways. Let's talk about some of those ways. I'm going to have a sip of water if you'll excuse me. Hydration, that's important. We'll talk about this too. So, signs and symptoms of dysbiosis. The first thing people tend to think of when somebody says, oh, my gut health is not that great. Well, what we typically will think of first is like, oh, you have stomach aches or maybe there's some form of digestive thing. It usually shows up like bloating, gassiness, constipation, diarrhea, acid reflux, food sensitivities even. So those are kind of the obvious things that stand out that are all part of a dysbiotic microbiome, where, like we talked about with the leaky gut, it can go whole body though. Other signs of gut dysbiosis can show up in the form of brain fog. Have you ever walked into a room, got there and thought, why did I walk in here? That can be related to imbalance in your gut. Things like anxiety and depression. I know many people who have said that when they started eating better, they were less depressed, less anxious. They just felt mentally better. Felt like they could be more present wherever they were, where they were working. They just felt better mentally. It can look better. Excuse me. Mood swings are another thing. I will talk a little bit about this for a second. When we cannot emotionally regulate ourselves, that can be from imbalance in the gut. Chronic fatigue is another major symptom of imbalance. Skin issues, think like eczema, dry skin, breakouts, and acne. Those are all related to gut issues. Cravings, sleep deprivation, or not deprivation, disruption, excuse me. Chronic inflammation, joint pain, chronic coughing can be a result of gut issues. Allergies and asthma can as well. So there's lots of things that don't really seem related to the gut that actually are. So they can appear outside of the body because, like I said, if toxins are seeping through into your bloodstream, it's carrying everywhere. So it's a big deal. This is big stuff, right? This is just all so fascinating to me. So what are some root causes? Like what would get our bodies in this state where we would start seeing all of these kinds of responses? So obviously there's going to be nutrition related things because that's the direct hit to our gut is what it's feeding off of. Ultra processed foods. This is going to probably seem pretty obvious for most of what I'm saying, but we'll say it anyway. So ultra processed foods, excessive sugar intake, alcohol. I'm sorry if you feel attacked there, but there's actually no health benefit to putting alcohol in your body. Now, that said, if that's important to you or that's part of your culture, part of your lifestyle, we can make room for it. Okay. And I can show you, I can tell you and talk to you and educate you on how to do that at another time based on your personal lifestyle. But too much can wreak havoc on your gut. Low fiber diets. Oh, we don't talk about fiber nearly enough, but fiber is essential. Having low plant diversity can also be devastating to your gut as well. Those micronutrients are what's going to help you absorb those macronutrients as well. So those are the nutritional disruptors of gut health. Lifestyle factors are going to play a huge role as well. Chronic stress. I've already talked about it and I'm going to bring it up again. Our biological makeup does not know the difference between us sitting in traffic when we're late for work for a job we hate versus us being chased by a hungry bear. Either way, our bodies are saying stay alive. That is just how we work. Okay. And so, obviously there's a healthy amount of stress that we get in our life. Like, if a hungry bear is chasing us, we should run from it. And then once we get away, we can chill because, oh, thank goodness we're safe. But we're finite beings, everyone. We have limits. We need rest. And so we just have to know when it's time to stop and take a break. And we are not a society these days that really likes to slow down. We like to go faster. We want to be as efficient as we can and do as much as we can with what we got. And there's a level to where that's honorable, and there's a level to where it's just too much on your physical state and your mental state. So knowing that balance in your life is going to make a huge impact on your gut health. Excuse me. With that said, just the lust for convenience is going to drive our bodies into disease. So that chronic nervous system overload is constantly working against us. And when we stay in that state, it's really hard to heal your gut, even if you do incorporate healthy foods into your diet. That stress is going to work against you. Again, because we're drawing the attention and the blood flow away from our gut to do what it needs to do rather than letting our bodies rest and repair. So if we're hurried and worried all the time, it's going to work against us. Let's see. Excuse me. Poor sleep habits are another lifestyle contributor for poor gut health. I heard somebody say once that terrorists use sleep deprivation as a torture method. And that's so tragic, but it's also, it made me stop and think, wow, like we truly can do that to ourselves because, well, I can get more done if I just stay awake longer. And then you're exhausted and you're spent. And typically that's when we think, well, I need energy. I must need carbs because carbs are energy. So we eat more carbs, but at night, they're not necessarily the good, healthy, prepared complex carbs so much as they are a bowl of cereal, a bag of chips, or something not really good for us. Excuse me again. So having healthy sleep habits is going to be huge on our gut health. And it's a big plan on hormonal health too, to have a strict bedtime and wake up time. When you kind of have the same routine every day, your body can adapt very easily to it. Sedentary living is a lifestyle factor. Our bodies are made to move as much as possible, y'all. Not as much as possible, but as much as is appropriate for us. We are just meant to work. Environmental toxins, that subject could be its own thing, an own webinar, and we'll leave it there, but environmental toxins play an effect as well. There are medication contributions to poor gut health that include the use of antibiotics. Those are so hard on our gut, and there is an appropriate time for them during heavy illness, but it is very disruptive for our gut, our microbiome altogether. Proton pump inhibitors, so PPIs, this is your reflux medications. The point of those, excuse me, I have a cough today. The point of these PPIs is to reduce the acid levels in your stomach. We need some acidity to be able to break down foods. When we get too much of it, it's usually based on something super processed that we've eaten, and we have just triggered our body into overload. So sorry. Frequent antimicrobial exposure. So using hand sanitizer all the time, being too sterile can actually be a thing. There is a healthy amount of germs that we get in our body. And I'll tell y'all, a challenged immune system can be a healthy one as it builds on itself and strengthens. Kind of like when you go to the gym, you are breaking down muscle fibers when you are under the squat rack or swinging kettlebells. Like you're being challenged so that when you put those things down, you can repair and recover and be stronger. And that's how our immune system is working as well when it has a little bit of challenge coming in. I think allergy shots, that's how those work as well. Y'all know now I'm a mom of 4. If you've listened to any previous webinars or have met me yet, I'm a mom of 4, and I will tell you that my firstborn, like a lot of moms out there, I was wiping down everything. I was scared of, she scared me to death. Like I just was figuring out what to do with this sweet little girl, and we got used to our rhythms in life. And then as I had more children, maybe we wiped down a few less counters and everything. They play in the dirt a little bit more, a little better. I had a thumb sucker, and I will tell you, those that like the one that sucks his thumb, the ones that play in the dirt more, are so much like they're all healthy, but they were sick way less because they had that healthy amount of bacterial challenge coming into their bodies. And this all pertains to our gut health. So hang with me. It all goes together. Yes, so moving on, I think I had some points, but I think I kind of hit those because I got excited. How to heal gut dysbiosis from a nutritional standpoint. Let's move into this because this is kind of where I'm sure many of you are ready to go. We know what can kind of disrupt us now, but what do we do about it? How do we take this information and put it on a plate where I know how to go to the grocery store? I know what I'm looking for. What do I do? Well, there's a handful of things, but we have to take it one step at a time, as with everything. Phase 1 is going to be to remove your irritants. So if you are used to a very processed or high sugar diet, we're going to start reducing the ultra processed foods and incorporating more whole foods. We're going to maybe reduce our sugar intake and to more natural forms, more fruits and less of the processed stuff, less artificial additives and preservatives, lessening the amount of alcohol and just any chronic inflammatory habits. You would want to address things like your stress overload, your sleep deprivation, sedentary behaviors. All the above issues are going to feed into each other. So once you kind of start attacking one habit, the rest kind of start building into them. So we start there by removing the irritants to our gut. Phase 2 is where we're going to start rebuilding that gut environment. So obviously we're going to be prioritizing whole foods, proteins, healthy fats, fiber-rich carbohydrates, colorful produce, enough water, all of those things. And now these things are numbers and macros that I can break down for you personally and calculate if you are interested in doing one-on-one coaching with me. So I am starting to take new clients. I have room for 5, and I would love to sit down with any of you, but the first call is free. and we can get you launched, and then I can sit down and work with all of you on your macros and your actual game plan and your goals. So, little plug. Increasing your plant diversity. Sorry about the cough, y'all. So it could be a really cool challenge to see how many different fruits and veggies you can get from week to week in your diet. That could be a fun thing to do. I actually have an old friend that said when her son was really young and they would go to the grocery store, he'd always say like, what can I get? What can I, was always asking for different things. So they came up with this plan where when they would go to the grocery store, they'd walk around the produce department and she'd say, you can pick one of anything you want. And she said, in doing this, that felt like his prize, his treat. And in doing this, he ended up trying tons of new fruits and vegetables, ended up loving lots of things that most kids really don't. Another really fun idea is you can get the what are they called? The crop sharing baskets, the CRS baskets that you can buy from different farms where they pile a bunch of available produce in a basket. They sell it to you for maybe 25, 30 bucks, and you use whatever's in there. There used to be Oma and Opa Robbie's over by Target in Athens, and they would do this, and on Fridays, that's where I would get our produce. And so it was typically stuff we like. There'd be potatoes, there'd be a fruit, stuff like that. But then sometimes there were things like leeks and like some sort of star fruit or something I had never had. And so we got to try an eggplant. That was another one. And it encouraged us to try new things. And we had a lot of fun with that. That business is not there anymore. I think COVID encouraged a move for them, but there are farms and places that still do that. So that can be a fun thing to get involved with. Bringing it back to my point, getting plenty of different fruits and vegetables. Different bacteria thrive on different plant fibers, and different enzymes and various plants support different strains of gut bacteria. So feeding on diversity literally feeds gut microbiome diversity. So that's why we want all the different fruits and vegetables that we can get so that we're getting the right kind of bacteria in our gut. Feeding the beneficial bacteria. Now that we're talking about words like, we'll start talking about probiotics. You've probably heard the term prebiotic and the term probiotic. They are different things. Prebiotics are not actually bacteria. Prebiotics are a specific type of fiber that feed good bacteria in the gut. Probiotics are actually live beneficial bacteria that are working in your microbiome. So prebiotic foods are going to include things like garlic and onion, bananas, oats, asparagus. I know there's a lot of like prebiotic drinks out there now, but these are kind of some places where we can start looking for prebiotics. Probiotics are going to be in your fermented foods. These are things like yogurt, kimchi, kefir, sauerkraut, kombucha is one thing too. And I will say you have to be careful to not get the high sugar ones if you're going for kombucha. Even, depending on how you tolerate bread and gluten, sourdough can be is a fermented food, and it can be a good source of healthy gut bacteria. Of course, with that working into your plan, I'm a fan of carbs, I'm a fan of bread, so we'll work that into your diet as well. But overall, a point is to get whole foods over supplementation. If you do want to add supportive nutrients to your diet, the main thing, first of all, is always look at protein. That's as important as they say it is. So things like quality meats like beef, chicken, turkey, organ meats especially. If you can go there, I know it sounds kind of gross at first, but if you can find organ meats and incorporate them into your diet and it's so nutritious. It packs an incredible punch to your diet. It's full of iron, CoQ10, all those amino acids. One easy way to kind of start incorporating it if you wanted to go that route is to just kind of blend it and grind it up into your like ground beef so that you kind of take the gamey taste out of it a little bit as you get used to it, or cook it in like spaghetti. I know people who have done that and they got used to it very quickly, and then their kids actually never knew the difference. Chicken liver, I've been told, is actually the best place to start for that. That is the most mild flavored organ meat. So I'd be interested to know who of y'all tries that hasn't before. So let me know. Omega-3 fatty acids. So this is your wild-caught salmon, your fish, your sardines. Again, I know that's probably, you're probably like, oh man, these are the weird foods she's talking about, but sardines are cheap, they're easy, you can take them anywhere, and they smell terrible, but they are so good for you. Uh, Zinc. Oysters are uh, big in housing zinc. If you can go there, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I can't do that. Tried, it's just not my style. Pumpkin seeds, beef, lentils. Fortified cereals can be a great source of zinc, but you do have to watch the sugar content in those as well and portion sizes because a bowl full of cereal, the way, or at least the way I like to pour it, is usually 2 or 3 actual servings. So you do have to watch for that. If you know your macros and your caloric goals and you want to stay within your range. Collagen rich foods. We have heard of collagen for a while now. I love it. Collagen is what's going to support the repair of your gut lining. So if you have leaky gut or have had dysbiosis that has broken down the physical barriers of your gut lining, collagen is what's going to put it back together. You can find the powders and the supplements and everything, but I will say this: food first, supplement second. I always believe that. I love bone broth. I'm especially big on homemade bone broth. I know like Kettle and Fire is a great brand you can just buy if you need it. But when you go homemade, it's so easy, it's so cheap, and it's just so delicious. And you can add different herbs and vegetables into it to just increase the nutritional value of it. Uh, and then you get to eat a chicken first. You know, excuse me, I often will buy just a whole chicken. I cook it. My family eats it. I take the bones and the carcass, the gross words like that, I throw it in the crock pot. You top it with water, a couple splashes of apple cider vinegar, salt, pepper, herbs, and then if I have like carrot and onions and so all the soupy kind of things, I'll throw that in there, and then it will cook in that crock pot for a day or two. And by the time it's done, it's almost gelatinous. It's so good. And my kids love it. Yes, my kids love it. When it's done, we will strain it and put it in mason jars and get them ready to either freeze or use. And my kids will have a tea party. So we have like cute little teacups, like china that we got from dollar stores or excuse me, thrift stores. And we will have a tea party and they'll get their cute little cups and their little bendy sippy straws and they'll just drink it straight up. And I will too. It's delicious. And then I'll also use it in place of water for cooking things like quinoa or rice or grains like that. I've cooked vegetables in it before just to give me that a little extra boost. It's a great way to get it in your system. Also, when you look at it, if it's set for a little while, you'll notice at the top, if you've ever cooked with any kind of fat, you kind of notice the fat will solidify at the top of the jar or the pot or whatever. That's the collagen. That's the fat. That's the good stuff that's going to keep hair, skin, and nails healthy. That's going to be a major part of rebuilding that gut lining and doing the repair work. People powder that stuff and sell it, for supplemental purposes, but this is where you can get it from your food. If you do get a supplement, there's great products out there as well. It does have protein, but it is not a complete protein. So if you're trying to use a collagen powder as a protein supplement, you're going to want to add to that because it's just not the complete chain of amino acids. It's going to really build those muscle fibers back. Okay, I sat in the bone broth topic for a few minutes there, but I want y'all to try it because it's just so easy, so good, and it's cheap. So probiotics, if you were to take probiotics, I would encourage you to talk to your provider first because they're just not all created equal. There's different kinds of strains in different probiotics that you may or may not need based on how you're doing. So if you're interested in pursuing a gut health journey, don't start by just taking tons of probiotics. I would encourage you to start altering your diet first and getting all those whole foods going, the plant diversity going, because that honestly may and likely will be enough. And if you need the extra boost of it, your provider can direct you on kind of the best one for where you're at. Because you don't want to throw yourself out of balance again because you've put too much, you can get imbalanced the other way too. Digestive enzymes. This is something you can take as well. What these do is they basically just help break down your food into smaller particles once you've eaten, so it's a little easier to digest. These are typically for like if you, let's say you go on vacation and you have kind of an out of the ordinary large meal that you're just, the one you have to unbutton your belt for a little bit, like digestive enzymes can kind of help with that as well. And that's kind of an as needed thing. L-glutamine is found naturally in protein-rich foods like beef, poultry, fish, eggs, and dairy products, and certain plant sources like tofu and beans, things like that. But this provides immune support, especially in times of pest. So that's another supplement that can be supportive of gut health as well. And then prebiotics that we talked about. So dealing with the chronic stress, keeping that under control, deep breathing, prayer, meditation, going to a quiet place, reducing lights, reducing stimulation. If you're just, have everything happening around you all day, those are going to encourage your gut health as well. Again, I've talked about stress so much, but it's just so important. Because even if you adjust your diet, if you're still in a chronic stress overload, it's still going to keep you out of balance even though you're eating perfectly. And if you're eating really well and you've made all that dietary changes, you're going to want to see results and you're going to want to feel your best. So it all works together. This is where I just love the complexity of the human body. It's a whole, it's full of systems that require more systems, right? So just remember, you don't have to do it all. The word priority holds the most weight when it's used in the singular form. Find your priority and the rest falls under it. You got this, guys. I promise. When you're a team and in as great of a team as Fit Body, like you've got a support system and we're all here for each other. So you don't have to do it all. You do what's yours and I don't know what's in your life. And I'll tell you, I am the pot calling kettle black there. But I believe in that and I strive to live by that conviction. And I encourage you to find that balance in your life as well, because life's meant to be enjoyed, guys. And I want that for all of us. And so expectations for healing. When you start this, it can take weeks, even months to start noticing our gut truly, truly healing. And that's going to depend on things like your consistency, the root causes, your stress levels, medical history. A lot of things come into play for that. But you can notice signs of improvement by things like better digestion, better sleep, less joint pain, less inflammation, more stable energy, more energy, better mood, all of these things, better focus even. All of these things are signs that your gut is healing, improving, and doing well. So closing it up here, our gut and our brain are in direct and continual communication with each other. And a lot of things can steal the attention of one versus the other, but we want to keep that marriage of the gut and the brain as healthy as possible so that their communication can be strong. And so the rest of our body knows what to do under the management of our gut-brain axis. And we encourage that by our lifestyle, by our nutrition choices, and our habits. With that said, that brings us to the end of this webinar. There's a lot of information to unpack, I realize. But I'm so thankful that y'all clicked to listen in on this webinar today, and I enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot. Again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out at jwhitingfbbc@gmail.com. I look forward to talking to all of you very soon. God bless you. Have a great day.